All right, first and foremost, give all praise to Yahweh by Shem Shabbat Thumb. And giving sincere greeting to all the brothers and sisters scattered across the four corners, teaching His word with sincerity and charity. And Brother Phineas, Prince of Power Israelites, here with another short lesson. Pretty much just going over, critiquing the video that I seen my brothers at Sakari do. They welcome the critique, welcome the refuting, and all praises for that. You know what I'm saying? They went over a lot of the topics regarding lunar Sabbath and everything that kind of went against it. All the precepts that an individual would use that is against the lunar Sabbath, they kind of addressed all of those precepts, and I mean pretty much all of them. And even one of mine that I probably won't be going over, one that I felt very strongly of, I just let it go. And they addressed it, as the, Christ being in the tomb 3 days. How did he raise on the fourth day? If the Passover was, if the Passover was on the 15th or the 14th, which was a Sabbath, how 3 days later he's on the 15th on the first day. And they were saying that the Sabbath is really on the 15th, and so they say he was dead on the 14th. 15th was the Sabbath, and then the 16th is the first day of the week, and so that'll be 3. The 14th, the 15th he was in there, which was the Sabbath, and then the first day of the week. And so, yeah, like, what I'm saying, that makes sense. And so I would let that go. I would never use that precept against them. But in the 3 days, 3 nights whole thing, you don't necessarily have to be in there 3 days, 3 nights. But that he was there around that certain period of time. Anyway, he touched 3 days, rather. So I would let that go. I wouldn't deal with that. So that was one good point that I would have scratched that off. If I was dealing with them, I would have scratched that one off. I would have conceded to that. The rest of them though, I don't know. So let's check this tag out. The first one we're gonna look at is 1,000 years. All right. One person will say that an individual would say to debunk the lunar Sabbath. An individual would say, well, the moon, and I would say, well, the moon was on the 4th day of the week. Was during the creation was on the 4th day, and then the Sabbath day was established on the 7th day. And so we see that the Sabbath was not governed by the moon. Now their defense is that the Sabbath wasn't established to Exodus 16. But before I get there, let's just watch this clip and we'll sweep through it.
That is one a simplistic.
Hold on 1 second. Let me make sure my screen is recording.
Such a simple. What you say? Rudimentary. Yes, rudimentary. Come on now. Go ahead. Right, rudimentary. Right. So, first and foremost, you're dealing with 1,000-year periods during creation, not 24-hour days. I'm gonna say that again. We're dealing with 1,000-year periods for creation, not 24-hour periods. So we're gonna hit 2 Ezra 14. We're gonna get some of our early Israelite church fathers just to add insult to injury, and then we're gonna get Exodus 16 when we first see the Sabbath instituted. Yeah, so let me go ahead. We can't hear you. My fault. What was I thinking? So let me get this one to start, just so we can be clear, right? Let's go right here. So Genesis 2:2. And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested the 7th day from all his work which he had made. So it's dealing with the resting of the Elohim. So let's get that in Peter. Right? That's how.
Yeah, man.
All right, go ahead.
This is 2 Peter 3:8. It says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing."
Of this one thing, read.
That one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years.
You see that? So we're talking about the resting of the Elohim, right?
And so again, we that's a doctrine. We'll make that a doctrine. One day with the Lord is 1,000 years, which is correct. Not to say that what he's saying is not true. But then we can't place that everywhere. We can't go and use a day is 1,000 years every time we see a day. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it works in some of the prophecies in Daniel. And we'll see them use it also in with some prophecies dealing with Esdras. I'm not gonna really touch those prophecies. I gotta look into it a little more, so it'll be, you know what I'm saying, it'll be wrong for me to try to address that, and I haven't really looked into the matter and got full understanding on what they're trying to say with that. But the ones I will address is those that I have a full understanding, full grasp of what they're trying to say. Now here they're trying to say that the creation story in Genesis was 1,000-year period, and that would mean you would neglect the fact that it said evening and morning were the first day. You will neglect that fact, and you will neglect the fact, if you take this stance, then you have to throw away the fact that evening starts a day, because this is the strongest precept to establish evening starting in a day, because we go here and says the first day, evening and morning were the first day, even though that's complete darkness, even though I don't even, I don't follow evening and morning being the first day. Or starting the day in evening. I start my day in morning. My Sabbath is from morning to morning. From early Saturday, crack of dawn Saturday, early morning, even before dawn. Saturday all day, until Sunday. But I was initially under the impression that evening starts. And so this was one of the strongest precepts that would be used for evening starts a day. And if we saying that this is creation story is about 1,000 years, and this is not really talking about evening and morning, or establishing a day or 2 days or 3, then we have to take that off the table. We can't have it both ways. You can't have this mean a day when we're dealing with when does the Sabbath start, and then you have this being a number of years where we're trying to establish is it a lunar Sabbath or is it a continual Sabbath? You can't have it both ways, and so you have to examine that and take that. You got to take that off the table. If that's the case, then you got to take the evening and morning off the table also. And again, this is to defend the fact that that Sabbath came on the 7th day and the moon came on the 4th day. All right, so I would definitely take that. I wouldn't. That's not a good. It's not a good debunking of that. Another part they're going to try to say is that the Sabbath was established in Exodus 16, and that the forefathers never seen the Sabbath. You don't see Abraham keeping the Sabbath. You don't see where Cain and Abel were told to keep the Sabbath. But we didn't see what Cain and Abel were taught to keep. My answer to that was we wouldn't see what Cain and Abel were taught to sacrifice. You wouldn't see where Abraham was taught to give tithes. You wouldn't see where Abraham was taught to sacrifice and to break bread. So there was a law before there was a law actually written. All right, there was an oral law before we see that there was a law that was actually written. That's why I made the tablet so special, is because it's, I don't want to get into that. But my refute into that would be it's a lot of things that you didn't see that these folks were doing. Even Job. All right, Job is before. It's a little after the flood, and before the Levitical law. And so we see that Job was doing a lot of things that were righteous in the Most High's eyes, especially giving sacrifices. These things were not told to them, but we don't see it being told to them, but we see that they were actually doing it, and some being punished for not doing these things actually correctly. Let's check out the next vid.
Common sense and reading comprehension. So we're going to read this one more time. Everybody make sure they're listening up. Right, go ahead.
Leviticus 23 and 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath.
After the Sabbath. Tomorrow after the Sabbath, you count what?
From the day that you brought the sheep wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Read.
Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath.
After 7 Sabbaths are complete. Read.
Shall ye number 50 days.
Then you number 50 days. After the completion of 7 Sabbaths, you number 50 days. Very simple and plain fluidly as you just read. Now, here's the thing. if the morrow after the seventh Sabbath is 50 days, why then does it say number the morrow after the seventh Sabbath plus 50 days? Why would it say that if the morrow after the seventh Sabbath is 50 days? If a Sabbath is perfectly 49 days, it would be redundant to say 7 Sabbaths, then 50 days. It would just say 100 days, right? But instead, it differentiates the amount of time 7 Sabbaths will take from 50 fixed days will take. So that totally obliterates it. The problem is people are going, oh, it says Pentecost. Pentecost means 50 days, so you count 50 days, but you're not reading Leviticus 23, where the Most High actually give us the commandments on our holy day. He said you number 7 Sabbaths, then the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you number 50 days. God. So that's not an exact amount of days because of the lunar cycle. All right? That shows that, or else it would have just...
Now, I've never heard anybody, I've never heard no Israelite break this down like that. I've never heard no camp say that Pentecost was actually over 100 days. I've never seen nobody say that Pentecost was over 100 days. What we're going to do, though, we're going to go back to what he was reading there and show where it's problematic. And see, that's why you got to watch brothers. He pausing and lifting up his voice, and I'm gonna show you how he read. All right, Leviticus 23:16. It says, "Even unto tomorrow, after the 7th Sabbath, shall you number 50 days." And really, it's just telling you, all right, after tomorrow, then 7 Sabbaths shall you number 50 days. That's 50 days. And so the King James, again, is tripping us up, man. And this is why we have to do comparative text. Look at whatever comparative text and see if it says that. See if you can get any other text that will simplify that. And you seen earlier in the video, they went to comparative text, especially with a breakdown they did with Esdras, to try to make us see whatever the 2.5 years, that we only have 2.5 years. 2,500 years left from Esdras, which was 500 years, which means that now at any second that Christ shall return. But let's read this thing again, and what we have to understand, there is no comma or semicolon in between these words. It says, "Ye shall even unto tomorrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days." All right, and so that's what pretty much is happening. But when you raise your tone up and down, you can make the text, and this is what I'm saying, we're dancing. All right, and we're using semantics. Okay, now let's look over in the NLT. It says, verse 16, it says, "Keep counting until the day after the 7th Sabbath, 50 days later." Okay, and so he's telling you that this is how this thing is written out. It makes perfect sense, but I feel brothers are just reaching, and I feel like they've never said anything like this. I almost want to go back and see when they last celebrated Pentecost, or the Pentecostals earlier. Where did they always have this this understanding, or were their Pentecost around the same time? Because their Pentecost would have to be 50 days after anybody else's. All right, it would have to be 50 days after anybody else. I want to go back and see their Passover and see if their Pentecost was 50 days after, you know what I'm saying, 100 days after anybody else's. But to see when did they gather this understanding, or to see that are they just reaching, trying to make something, trying to address and trying to hold on to this lunar Sabbath because they know they can't, it doesn't make sense. And so this was definitely another weak point here. Using ye shall even unto tomorrow the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. It's not telling you to add another 50 days. And then to go in there and say, well, why does it say 50 days? And then why would they do that? And it seems a little redundant. It don't matter. To, like, all that's fluff. When anybody starts doing all of that, it's insertion and it's fluff. All right. This is what the text says. All right. From tomorrow, even until tomorrow. Let me read 15. "And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. All right. And so he just said 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. All right. Even after tomorrow, the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. All right. After the 7th Sabbath, you shall number 50. So we still again from 15 to 16. We said 7 Sabbaths twice. All right. We said 50 days twice. So what do you mean it's redundant? I don't get it. I feel like that is that's a reach. It's a terrible reach. And I think, man, like that was just a very weak point there. But let's check out the next video.
So that's not an exact amount of days.
Shalakia. Wait a minute. Before I even go there, let's go to, because it's not just called Pentecost, it's also called the Feast of Weeks. Okay, and let's go back to Deuteronomy 16 and 9. And it's just amazing that these brothers didn't go there either. To establish when did this thing actually happens. Deuteronomy 16 and 9, it says, 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee, begin to number 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord with the tribute of a freewill offering in thy hand. Where is the add 50 days? Where is that at in Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 9? Where is that at? Where is the add 50 days there? We don't see it. So we have to repent of that. All right, we have to repent of that. We can't be adding the 50 days to the 50 days. Come on, man. But yeah, I feel like they did that to reach, and I feel like they probably never had that as their understanding. But this is just something they're doing to try to fix this thing. It was probably the only thing that they could come up with to try to make this thing make sense. And we're reading NLT says, count off 7 weeks from when the first began to cut off the grain in honor, then celebrate your feast of harvest, man. So it's all right. So let's look at the next video.
135. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months.
There are what?
Yet 4 months.
4 months, then what?
Then cometh the harvest.
Then cometh the harvest. From the first month of the year, if I number 50 days, like they're telling me to, what month does that put me in? The second month, right? Because a month got 30 days, right? So that puts me about 20 days into the second month. But Yahushua said the harvest is in the 4th month, right?
Sorry, I had to cut in. I just noticed that he was saying that Christ is saying that 4 months, or in the 4th month, or rather, that the harvest is supposed to happen. That's not what it's saying. It's saying in 4 months that the harvest, that, we still may have 4 months, the harvest may be coming. But it's not establishing that in the 4th month that the harvest is here. That's not what it's saying.
100 days puts me what? 10 days into the 4th month, or about that, right? Right there in that 4th month. So according to Hamashiach Yahushua, the harvest is in the 4th month, not the 2nd month. So Pentecost is not actually 50 days from that. It's actually 7 Sabbaths plus 50 days, because that's the only way to put it in the 4th month. 50 days don't put you in the 4th month, right? So now your understanding of Pentecost has been through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua thoroughly debunked, right? You're now going to have to take that argument off the table, just like the 7 24-hour day, 4th day argument. That's done.
And so my brothers used John 4 and 35, and they said, it says, Yahweh saith unto them, my meat, 35, it says, say not ye, there are 4 months, then harvest cometh. Behold, I say unto you, lift up thy eyes, look on the fields, for they are already white. And so he's using this to, again, establish when a harvest is. And so he's saying the harvest is 4 months. This was a saying of the Israelites. And so he's correct in saying that, a harvest probably takes about 4 months. The problem comes into play is that you're adding 4 months to what's already pretty much a harvest season. All right. Pentecost is after first fruits. It's after first fruits. And so now you're telling me that we have to wait 50 days after the first fruits. We have to wait another 4 months after first fruits, after Passover. You're saying that is a harvest season. That is weak. That is weak. Now it sounded good, yeah, harvest season 4 months, but you got to understand that this is after Passover, after first fruits, after the first fruits of the harvest season, and then with you telling me that we're gonna wait another 4 months to gather the stuff in, that's problematic. And again, I feel this is just another reach to try to refute some of the topics that are coming out, debunking that lunar Sabbath. All right, and so this will be part one. I'll come back and refute the other couple topics that they brought out.